What's up guys, my name's Stu, and yes, you read that correctly. Today I'm going to be showing you my Legendary Defiant tank build. A while back during my live stream I was messing around with this ship when friend of the channel Erystu decided to make the joke, Legendary Defiant tank when? They obviously meant it as a joke, but I decided to take it as a challenge for literally no reason other than that we weren't really doing anything else important, so why not? So with that, and with some help from my friend's sarcasm detector, we put the nickname Tough Little Ship to the test. One thing I want to be clear about before we start is that this is not meant to be a serious tank build. This is a meme, a joke, something I did on a whim because I thought it was funny, and it was only made funnier when it actually worked. However, it only worked because everything went right in the ISE run I'm going to show you later. Everyone on the team knew what they were doing, they got their positioning perfectly, and they killed all the Borg quickly enough that I didn't end up having to take too much damage for a long duration of time. So if you're looking for a serious tank build to emulate, I would look at one of my other tanking videos instead, which I will link in the description. Now with that disclaimer out of the way, here it is, the Legendary Defiant tank. The gear is literally identical to my Odyssey tank, so I'm not going to get too much into that. I'm still using Bowel anti-proton beams, I'm still using the Discovery Reputation 3-piece, I'm still using my normal tanking consoles. This is literally the exact same gear. If you want more detail on this stuff, go watch my Legendary Odyssey tank video. For skill specializations, I'm still using Miracle Worker as my primary and Temporal as my secondary. The personal space traits are also still the same, so I'm not going to go too much into them either. At this point, you're probably asking, well, what is the difference between this and your original tank build besides the ship? Well, in the Starship traits, I've swapped out Honored Dead for Improved Photonic Officer. Because of the Legendary Defiant's limited engineering seating, I've ditched Oxtobat in favor of relying on Photonic Officer instead. Things get a bit more different in the Bridge Officer seating because, well, this is a very different ship from the Legendary Odyssey. In the Universal/Pilot seat, first we've got Emergency Power to Engines for the little extra speed buff, and Hold Together for the extra hit points and damage resistance. Over here we've got Tactical Team because, honestly, I couldn't think of anything else better to put there. Just don't put it on your spam bar because this does interrupt firing cycles. Attack Pattern Beta for the debuff, Fire at Will because it's great at attracting aggro, and Attack Pattern Delta for the damage resistance. You might be wondering if the two attack pattern abilities share a cooldown, and they do, but don't worry, that actually isn't a bad thing. The shared cooldown is only 15 seconds, and the ability uptime for each ability is less than 15 seconds, so you're not really hurting the effectiveness of either one by slotting both. You're just going to be going back and forth between the two. Down here is Chemosight 1 for the extra radiation damage, Torpedo Spread 2 to buff my torpedo and to trigger Entwined Tactical Matrices, which I am still using on this, Emergency Power to Weapons 1 to trigger Emergency Weapon Cycle, Auxiliary Power to Inertial Dampeners for some physical and kinetic damage resistance, as well as some flight speed and turn rate buff. I know that doesn't look like much, but I'm using a Duty Officer to improve the effectiveness of this ability, but more on that later. Reverse Shield Polarity 2 because I can't fit Reverse Shield Polarity 3, Tractor Beam 1 to trigger Unconventional Systems, and Photonic Officer to improve my cooldowns. Since I'm not using Oxtobat, I don't have to use those 3 Technician Duty Officers, so that frees up some DUF seating. I'm still using a pair of Vidakukons for the extra threat generation when I activate Attack Pattern Delta, and the Fabrication Engineer to increase the duration of Reverse Shield Polarity. But I've also added the Emergency Con Hologram to reduce the recharge time of evasive maneuvers every time I activate Emergency Power to Engines. This means I don't have to worry so much about timing the use of evasive maneuvers so much. This Matter Antimatter Specialist is the duty officer I spoke about earlier. Not only does it add some energy damage resistance to Ox to Inertial Dampeners, but it also extends its duration. And finally, a Nurse that increases my hull regeneration. Honestly, I'm really happy with this duty officer setup. I know I set this ship up as a joke, but I may move some of these changes over to my main tank build. Before we get to the ISE, I want to point out a couple embarrassing things about this recording. First, if you look at my power tray, you might notice that I forgot to put Emergency Power to Weapons and Emergency Power to Engines on my spam bar. Oops. This means that Emergency Weapon Cycle and the Emergency Con Hologram were not triggering this whole time. I also had the wrong pilot ability slotted. I somehow put it in Flyer Apart instead of Hold Together. And for most embarrassing, I accidentally slotted in Extensively Modified Warp Core instead of Cold Hearted. Don't know how I did that. But yeah, even if I hadn't made these mistakes, this is still very much a build where everything had to go right. Because I'm an idiot, I accidentally deleted the combat log that had this ISE run on it. Fortunately, I posted this screenshot to Twitter not long after recording it. 86% damage in and 75% of attacks in. Hardly my best tanking stats, but way better than I expected this thing to ever do. And the fact that Cash took in 0% of attacks makes that seem even more impressive. Of course, then you look at Sarcasm Detector and Neojet. They both took some damage and had to do a good amount of healing as well. Like I said, this build requires a team that knows what it's doing and knows what it's getting into. So yeah, that's the build. If you're looking to build your own tank build, I sincerely hope you don't try to replicate this one. I'm not kidding when I say it is a miracle I got this thing to work. You want a reliable tank build? I got 2 more on the channel, go look at one of them. Again, big thanks to Sarcasm Detector for his input on this build. If you haven't seen his channel yet, I definitely recommend checking him out. He's a very knowledgeable Star Trek Online player. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below. Or don't, I'm not your boss, I can't tell you what to do. I'm just a guy on a screen, but I really would appreciate it if you did. Anyway, my name's Stu, and did I wear the right shirt today or what? Come on.